Good morning, my friends. Thursday morning, Ask Me Anything. We had some questions about bone health, osteoporosis. In fact, I've had several clients in the last 3 years, women, come to me with concerns because their DEXA scan or something that they'd had done is showing that they're having weak, brittle bones. And we want to talk about this age group that we're in. Why are we susceptible to osteoporosis, osteopenia, which is pre-osteoporosis? And in fact, the word osteoporosis wasn't even really classified as a disease many years ago. It just wasn't even recognized as a thing. However, let's talk about our bones. If you have a memory of like biology class or a doctor office or somewhere, you probably, maybe at some point, you saw a skeleton, like, hanging as a demonstration in class or a doctor's office. And when you look at a skeleton, we think of those bones as just being hard, brittle, just a thing, not really understanding that the bones in our body are actually a living tissue. It's not just some sort of hard structure that we're built around. The bones are constantly, we use the term remodeling, remaking themselves, making new bone cells over and over again. That's called remodeling. And there are two kinds of cells, osteoblasts and osteoclasts, and some of them are responsible for creating new bone cells, and the other group are responsible for tearing down and getting rid of old dead cells. We think of the skeletal matrix, what's inside the bone, is like a fretwork matrix of collagen and minerals that we then lay minerals down on top of to build this structure. So it's really important that we get the right kind of foods and nutrients to build good bones. Studies have shown, and the doctors say, that we have our bone mass finished in terms of what it's going to look like at our early 20s. And that we start to lose bone mass right around menopause. And that's when a lot of women start to get diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis. And the reason is that we deplete our estrogen stores as we go through to menopause. And estrogen is very bone protective. And if we don't go back onto some sort of bioidentical hormone program, we set ourselves up for fractures. And I'm reading a new book that's so good. And it's an older book, and it's called The Calcium Paradox. So I get my clients to come to me and they'll say, Leslie, my doctor wants me to take 1,000 milligrams of calcium every day, and I have this one calcium tablet that I use as my show and tell. I wish you all could come into my office. It's so fun. It's so pink and orange and green. And I have a supplement graveyard. Anyway, I've had this one calcium pill that a client brought me, and I use it to tell the story that this is calcium carbonate. This is the stuff you buy at Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, one a day. I don't know, But anyway, can you hear? I'm trying to smash it. I haven't been able to smash it or break it open in 3 years. So I said, you think this is going to dissolve in your stomach and be released? The thing about calcium, which we love, it is the flexing mineral. Magnesium, its buddy, is the relaxing mineral. So we want to make sure that the calcium is deposited in our bones. If it's sort of rushing around in our body and our bloodstream and isn't getting deposited into our bones, it can deposit in your heart, your arterial system, and calcify there. It can deposit, believe it or not, in your eyes, the cataracts type of thing. So studies have shown that a woman over 50 is at greater risk for a fall and breaking a hip. And also studies have shown that women that fall and break a hip usually have a 50% chance of not living out another year. And I heard Mark Hyman talk about a broken hip in a woman over 50 or 60 is almost like getting a terminal cancer diagnosis. And I have that in my family. My mother grew up in Scotland before the war, before London. She had her primary years living off the farm and great milk and eggs and butter. And she had the most magnificent white teeth. I mean, just beautiful. But my mother loved coffee, sugar, donuts, pancakes, waffles. She was a sugarholic. And what we know now, and looking back, sugar is very acidic, oxidizes and acidifies our bloodstream. Well, when your body is always trying to maintain its pH, its alkalinity, where does it go to buffer? Where does it go to buffer that acidity? It goes to your bones and your teeth to pull out calcium, because calcium is a buffering agent. It's alkaline. So if you've got an acidic body, it's going to pull out the calcium. Good morning, Sabrina. Thanks for joining us. So my mom, as she aged, her beautiful white teeth started getting paler and just almost see-through, and they started cracking and breaking off, and she was just losing teeth. And then I realized it was because she had, over the years, stolen all the calcium out of her teeth to buffer her acidic body. And of course, at 80, she fell and broke a hip. 82. Fell and broke a hip. Would not, the pin, the surgery didn't take. And she was dead within 6 months. So we want to talk about how do we, again, it's not something we just wake up one day and have osteoporosis. It's a progressive situation, progressive disease that we can work on, in our 30s, or should be working on in our 30s, which was 30-something years ago. But this book pointed out to me, I'm just going to read this part. Osteoporosis is a loss of bone mineral density and thinning bone tissue that causes bones to become more porous and prone to fracture. It's the most common bone disease, with 1 in 5 over the age of 50. 1 in 5. That's more than the breast cancer rate. 1 in 8 is breast cancer. But many of them are going to have this, and many of them don't even get it diagnosed. Osteoporosis can rob you of your posture. You can lose height. I love being 5'7". I do not want to be 5'5". No offense to anybody who's 5'5", but if you're 5'5", you don't want to be 5'3". Or you can get that hump on the back of your neck. Anyway, the drugs that are out there. So my mom did take, I don't know if it was Fosamax or Boniva or one of those. There's a lot of injectables. There's some that they only do once a year, once a month. But the side effects of those drugs are bone loss. It's unbelievable. In the fine print, it says makes you more prone to fractures, because those drugs promote bone building, cells to kind of rebuild, and it stops the remodeling of taking away the dead bone tissue. But the bone tissue that it promotes building is very fragile, very brittle. And so, and the other side effects of some of those drugs is what they call necrosis of the jawbone. You actually start to lose teeth and your jawbone rots from these drugs. So you're like, okay, what's my alternative, Leslie? I do not want to go down that road. So, of course, I recommend a really good calcium, but within a base of multi-minerals, because calcium has to have its little buddies. And you really probably can't see this, but this is my mineral, and it's like chalk. It just dissolves real easily in my system. Calcium, magnesium, boron, manganese, strontium, the other minerals that are so important. But what we're learning now about bone health and calcium is that calcium, in order to stop just going through our bloodstream and getting deposited in the proper places, it needs D3 and K2. And K1 and 2 are vitamins really only discovered in the last 20 or 30 years. And they act on like a shuttle service to make sure that your calcium gets in the right places. I don't know if you've ever heard of someone said, I'm on a calcium blocker. Or if you go in for cardiovascular assessment and they run a calcium score, they want to see how calcified or calcium plaque you might have in your cardiovascular system. That's because the calcium's getting deposited in the wrong place. And crazily enough, in the beginning of this book, it talked about the fact that women who supplement with calcium to prevent osteoporosis are at a higher risk of atherosclerosis, which is calcium plaques, higher risk for heart attack and stroke. So, you're telling me to take calcium, but puts me at a higher risk for heart attack and stroke. Why is that? Well, the problem was, again, K2. You find K2 in cheeses, hard cheese, but it acts as to cut through all the really, 60 pages of deep biochemistry here. It helps shuttle the calcium into the right place, to your bone structure. So, what do I recommend? Well, during all of the 2-year pandemic we had, when we were told to increase our D levels, especially during the wintertime, one of my favorite delivery systems for a vitamin D is this biotics product called BioDK Emulsion. So it has D and K2 together, which is what we want. And it's the D3. And it's a oily grab. Where did I know? With food. And I had a little breakfast. So this is what we take, if that doesn't bother you. Now, and this is really ideally to build your vitamin D levels up. Vitamin D is fat soluble. We store it. And if you're in a deficiency, if your tank is not only empty but below empty, it takes high doses to get you back up to where you need to be. Then we jump into maintenance mode. And Biotics has a lovely product called ADEK, so you're getting vitamin A, also fat soluble, great for the skin. Vitamin E, fat soluble, great for the skin. D3 and the K2. Again, just the same as the DK emulsion. It's just a little oil, so like 2 drops really is beneficial. The other product that I recommend, that my husband takes, is he doesn't mind swallowing pills. I try to get away with as few pills as I can, but I already take like 12. This is a product by Designs for Health. Now this is where you get your fish oil. So I do want everybody to be on a fish oil. And that may be another conversation because I want to do another one of these on brain health. But this is Omega Veil Ultra. It's slippery. It can swallow easily. But it's 1,200 milligrams of omega-3 with D3, K1, and K2. So this is another way to get your D and your K together and your fish oil, which is nice. I'm all for blending our supplements. That is, taking a supplement blend. Like we were talking about, Sabrina's taking her multi-minerals. I don't want you to just take calcium, or I don't want you to just take B12. I want you to take a B complex, a mineral complex, because they work synergistically. It's like having a symphony and all you have is a flute and a tuba or a drum. You need the violins, you need the trumpets, you need everybody to make it all sound pretty. So our body works in synergy with all the nutrients. God's perfect food. Actually, this says herring kippers is the sardine. I'm telling you what, I grew up eating sardines in mustard sauce on saltine crackers, watching the Ed Sullivan Show. So did my husband. That's so crazy. But the sardine, you eat the whole sardine. You get its skeletal structure. It's giving us calcium. It's giving us protein, a little bit of protein, and it's giving us the omega-3 that we need. So if you can get sardines, make a sardine salad just like you'd make a tuna salad. That's one of the perfect foods. And I think, as I said, this author talks about what is vitamin K2 to our health. It helps prevent a lot of aging. Oh, by the way, lack of K2 promotes calcification of our elastic tissues and our skin, promoting wrinkles. Who wants some ADK? Not me. I mean, I don't want wrinkles, that is. She talks about how vitamin K2 is important in diabetes and fertility, wrinkle prevention, brain health, preventing Alzheimer's, which of course she knows my other wheelhouse. And that because we're at that age where we're no longer menstruating, we're going into menopause, or we're in menopause, I would really, really strongly suggest you have a conversation with a hip, functional OB-GYN, not somebody from old school that thinks that estrogen promotes breast cancer, because that's been debunked 15 years, 20 years ago now. But that information is now just catching up to our physicians. But estrogen is also breast, brain, and bone protective. So let me see if I have any other comments. I know many people who get kidney stones. Is that related? No. Kidney stone is oxalic acid formation. And Lisa asked for the book again, Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox. And the author is Kate Room Blue, Bleue, Bachelor of Science and a naturopathic physician. Really interesting. So I find it interesting too, because my mother had heart disease. So here we go. We're thinking, all those years of taking, really, I mean, she did her one a day calcium, but never ate anything else, and was never told to take it with D3 or K2. So she had arterial plaque. She had all that plaquing, and I'm thinking this was the culprit. And she had porous bones, and they also say that when a woman's in her 80s or whatever age it is, and she's been on that osteoporosis medication that's available, that a woman doesn't fall and break a hip, that her hip actually snaps and she falls. And it's always the bone at the hip there. There's your pelvis and there's the bone. And that's what happened with my mom. So creating good, strong bones, bone broth, anything that has a lot of the cartilage and a lot of the connective tissue, make your bone broth with the entire, neck, head, feet, whatever you can get of the chicken or the fish. Fish stock would be great. I like to roast all the bones, roast the beef or the fish or the chicken before I make my bone broth, because I think it adds flavor. For sure, sardines. It's just interesting, because they'd say, why don't I drink milk to get my calcium? Well, my mom drank a lot of milk too. And yeah, whole anchovies, absolutely, Sabrina. I was going to mention the anchovies, but that's pretty strong. Your body has to work so much harder to break down and get the calcium in milk than it would be to just take a good calcium supplement. A lot of leafy greens, believe it or not, have got some calcium in them, because leafy greens chelate and pull minerals out of the soil, but we don't want to overdo our greens. That's another story about a friend and client who was eating raw kale, spinach, and chard every day for 3 years. Came to see me because she'd been told she has 11 cavities and osteoporosis. And when I finally got down to the root cause, we discovered she was eating so many of these raw leafy greens. Well, they're chelators. They pull minerals. Well, they were pulling the calcium out of her bones and teeth. So I'll highly recommend steaming, blanching, using greens sparingly, raw. Don't have a spinach salad every day. But you have leafy green every day, but have it in another manner. Steamed, tossed, sauteed, that kind of thing. Let's see who else we've got here. Who else is here? We want to see who's here. Want to show me? Nope. I tell you what, every time I come to this Facebook Live, I'm like, how do I do this? I forget. So, if you're not currently concerned about your bone health, you should be. We need to make sure that you're getting a great multi-mineral that is very dissolvable, that has a great dose of calcium in it. And this one I really recommend from Claire Labs. It also has magnesium, a little iodine, zinc, selenium, manganese, chromium, molybdenum, boron, and vanadium. Now, you don't ever hear about those every once in a while. Very important for bone health. Or you can do a compound with, get your D3 and K2 with your fish oil. We can do a DK emulsion under the tongue, or an ADEK that's a maintenance product. So we use just a couple drops every day. And throw in your sardines or your anchovies or your kippers. I grew up eating kippers, believe it or not. But I think that's just a slang word for herring. The smell of kippers in the morning. So enjoy my time with you. Thank you for submitting questions. Thank you for being here. If you think this is helpful and informative, please invite your friends on Facebook to come join the Whole Healthy Woman. I'm letting women in. I want to help women. So, yeah, I don't know how you would do that. I guess you would send your friend an email, a Facebook link and say, hey, I want you to come join us over at the Whole Healthy Woman. They ask to join. I let them in. Be great. And then they get back, because I think these are all stored. So I'll get better and better at this. I promise. So I'm going to say goodbye. And, yep, now I got to remember how to end it. Bye, guys.